I said, great. Oh, thanks. That's all I really want,
Yeah.
So I shut the door. And as I shut the door just before it closed, you know how you can hear a conversation? He burst out laughing to his colleagues. And he said, I guess I got rid of that one.
Tell me you showed up.
So what do? That's what Woody Allen says. Secret of my success is that I showed up.
1, 2, 3, 4.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 100 of the On the Runs podcast. Insert your Kermit the Frog. Yay! Oh my God, 100 episodes. We are coming to you virtual tonight. Erica, what's up? How are you doing?
I am so great. I am so excited. I don't know if I could say the word so enough to describe how I'm actually feeling right now. 100 episodes.
Yes, it's so cool. And I'm excited. We just got off with our last person for Boston Weeks. We have 4 amazing women runners for Boston Weeks. You're getting 2 episodes this week. You're getting 2 episodes the week after. Then you're going to get, I don't know about the week of the marathon because we'll be really busy. We're going to try to do some in-person recaps. I'm so excited. It is April. It was not an April Fool's joke, guys. I told you it wasn't. I'm so glad most of you were I think one person was like, wait a second, is this April Fool's? They DM me this is real. This is real. It really happened. But how are you? I saw you the other day. We finally got to podcast from your house and we're back to virtual on Riverside. Man, was that fun at your house hanging out in your studio?
That was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know how my studio, it's probably not equipped well enough for video podcasting, but at least my spare bed is really, really comfortable. So whoever's taking it for Boston Weeks, you let me know.
Yeah. You guys, I mean, first come, first serve, right? Couples can stay. Anyone can stay. Erica has it. But man, we just the last couple of weeks, we've been doing all these Boston Weeks episodes. This is the beginning of Boston Weeks. It's our 3rd annual Boston Weeks. And the whole goal and point of this is to help generate some awareness of the runners running Boston. If they're fundraising, maybe help them fundraise and share their fundraising links and just hear their stories about how they qualified or how they got in. And then talk about some, last year we had Dave McGilvery and his whole story of, his grandfather and then just running it again. And then he became the race director. That was so cool. And then today, this has been a long time in the works. And I think I've done a really good job of keeping this quiet because I was afraid it wasn't going to happen before Boston. I knew this was going to happen one day, but I really want it to be for this episode and to start off Boston Weeks. I'm so excited. We had Kathrine Switzer on the podcast.
I don't think there is a better way to kick off Boston Weeks. This is starting it off so spectacularly. I'm just so excited that we get to share this episode with everybody.
We will get into the details. I know some people ask, how did you get her? Long story short, we asked. But there is a long story to that. And it was a little bit of she's in New Zealand. How cool was that? We talked to someone. Well, we've done that before, Japan. But yeah, we talked to someone on the other side of the world. She was so cool. A lot of fun. I think we just need to get right to it.
Let's do it. Yes.
Celebrate episode 100 after you guys hear from Kathrine for 100. This is a storytelling podcast and she has a story to tell. A lot of people have heard different versions of the story. No one better to hear it from than the source itself, right?
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have an absolute trailblazer for the sport of women in running. Welcome, Kathrine Switzer, to the On the Runs podcast.
Our next guest on the pod is one of running's most iconic figures. She was introduced into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 2011. She's the winner of the 1974 New York City Marathon, a writer, an Emmy Award-winning TV commentator, and the founder of 261 Fearless. But number one, she broke the gender barrier, becoming the first woman to register to run in the 1967 Boston Marathon. We are very excited to welcome Kathrine Switzer to the On the Runs podcast. Kathrine, how are you?
I am really great. I'm so happy to be here and join you guys. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, I am beyond words excited to have you here, Kathrine. We are among a legend right now. So welcome to the podcast. I can't wait to just dive in and get to know all about you. Not more than we already know.
Well, I can tell you one thing all three of us have in common. It is really cool and really special. We're part of a small little group, but we're all lefties.
Oh, isn't it? How did you know I was left-handed?
I've done my homework.
Oh, my goodness.
That is so random. I mean, it's very rare to find anybody left-handed. I also forget that he's left-handed, and we talk like all the time. So, yes, it's a very fun club.
Good. Okay, great. Well, we know how to work all kinds of things like, well, old-fashioned telephones and scissors and stuff like that. I used to have a hell of a time in phone booths. I don't know about you, but you're probably so young and don't even remember a phone booth.
Oh, we do. I'm a little bit ambidextrous though, so I've got both hands working for me, but I cannot write with anything but my left hand.
I'm the same. Everything for me is lefty. But Kathrine, you are in New Zealand right now. It is actually tomorrow. It is Tuesday. We're recording. It's Monday here. It's Tuesday where you are. You're in New Zealand. How's New Zealand treating you these days?
Well, I mean, I love New Zealand. I'm a New Zealand citizen now. I'm a dual citizen. I met a wonderful New Zealand guy. But yes, as for being a day ahead of you, if you want to know the future, just call me. I'll tell you the weather.
Gonna keep that in mind.
It's difficult to organize events like this, for instance, because it's earlier in the morning for me. But hey, look, New Zealand is paradise. It's wonderful for running. Of course, we're going to be talking a lot about running today. And my husband is Roger Robinson, a very well-known world-class runner, has been since he was 24, and he's now pushing 85 in every age group. I often say Roger's name is engraved in Copley Square at Boston, and mine is not, interestingly enough, because he ran and set a record and won the Masters in 84. And one of my highlights of my life was actually doing the TV commentary for so many years at Boston and calling his finish, That was really great.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he's also a well-known author, many, many books, probably 5 or 6 now about running. And the latest is Running Throughout Time, Running's Greatest Stories. So I'll give him a little plug there. But yeah, when I met him and we decided to get married, we wondered what country to live in. And I'd been married a few times before, and I realized that in a relationship, if one person gives up everything for the other person, it's very romantic at first, but then it gets very tough on somebody later. And so we decided to divide it and live in both countries where we both had our roots and our area of influence, if you see what I mean. Although, running is so global, and it's worked out really well. It's expensive. I mean, you guys worry about mortgages and car payments. We worry about airfare.
Very true.
Because New York to Auckland is a hell of a flight. But anyway, it's amazing to be in this amazing little country because it really is environmentally conscious like no other place I've ever been. And the land is still new. I mean, geophysically, it's still a new country. We have earthquakes and volcanic explosions and tsunamis and all those kinds of things where most of the world doesn't, and it's a common occurrence here. But I mean, I just got back, for instance, from a long, it's not long for an ultra runner. It was 50 miles, but it was over mountain passes and swing bridges and cliffs, hike, and which they call a tramp here. And I had to carry a 20-pound pack and sleep communally and wash in streams and eat dehydrated food for 4 days. But it was magic. And the only way you can get into the country is to walk it or if you're good, run it. And that's one of the greatest things about running. It connects us to the earth and gets us really close to this wonderful environment. And so I'm very blessed, really to be here. My American home is in the Hudson Valley of New York and also very near super duper trails and woods and the Mohonk Preserve, which is fabulous and has a wonderful big race coming up on May 4th called the Rock the Ridge, a 50-mile enduro race. So I'm not into enduro running so much, but I love doing all my training on trails.
I was just going to ask you that question, which you prefer, because it sounds like you are very one with nature. So I'm trying to get into the more trail running myself, just to not trip over things, but to enjoy the scenery and just more quiet than roads. So
yeah,
I'll definitely take that up.
Well, Erica, I'm 77 now and I'm still running. And in fact, I ran my fastest 10K that I have in 10 years recently.
Way to go.
Yeah. Well, carrying that pack really built up those quads. I got to tell you, I was.
I believe it. That's powerful. No easy feat. 50 miles over 4 days, heavy pack. Oof, I haven't done that.
It was the pack. But actually, I started, and Roger was a great influence on this. When we moved out of New York City, in fact, while we were still in New York City, we ran on the bridle path in Central Park. And I moved in from the road and got on the bridle path simply to get my feet and my legs off the hard surface. I trained all my life on hard surface, and I was beginning to get a little Achilles problem, niggles in the knees. Once I got on dirt, I was fine. And I think that these dirt paths have saved my legs. I really do. So I'm a real believer in them.
Excellent. I just need to be a little more graceful. Let's put it that way with my running off the paved roads.
Yeah.
She needs to pick those feet up over those roots from time to time. She sometimes just clips them.
That's the hard part.
Well, that also is good too, because it forces you to, make your decisions quickly about where you put your feet, and it really works on the balance. And I don't know if this is the right word, proprioception, the ability.
I don't know.
Well, the ability to read the land. For instance, Roger is incredibly good at cross country. Whereas, for instance, he's not a good dancer. But on cross country, his feet just move. And you watch some of the really, really good trampers in New Zealand, and their feet just kind of know where to go. It's really amazing.
I'm very envious of that. Yep. That's like the Courtney Dauwalter, who just, it's so natural for them to just run over these crazy terrains, and it just looks so fluid and beautiful. But someday I will get there.
And aren't they wonderful? The women.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And there was this fabulous race called the Further,
oh my gosh. Yes. With Camille Herron. Unbelievable. Absolutely.
They're unbelievable. And I mean, one of my greatest heroines, of course, is Jasmine Paris, who won that huge race in the north of England and Scotland or whatever. My God, in the middle of the night and nursing her baby along the way.
Absolute. So much
Eric, don't tell me
that.
We don't have it all. We've got it all here.
You got it all.
We're just jumping right in about how awesome women can be. Like, they didn't
take over.
Us.
I'll just listen.
That was one of the things that you had to overcome with just men not believing that women could do hard things like that. And what do they expect? We can birth children. Like, that is not an easy feat whatsoever. I mean, it took how many years for the science to come through for them to believe that? It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is amazing. But for thousands of years, women did not have the advantage of not having children. And the fact, the advent of birth control has revolutionized many things, and maybe if we get it right, we can save the world. But honestly, there's no man in the world who can take 3 days to have a baby, and nature provides also, a fat resource and that stamina and temperature control, and let's face it, sleep deprivation. Women are extremely good at it. There were there's terrific race here in New Zealand called the Grand Traverse, and this a 6-day race, and there are 3 guys, 3 women. The guys push the team for the first 3 days, and then they're dead. And I said, well, why do the women always bring the team home? And they said, because we can no longer read the compass. See, it's amazing. And I said, well, throughout history, women have come home to 6 screaming children.
Yeah, no sleep in their futures.
And not murdered a single one of them.
How about that? Oh, absolutely amazing.
Well, I feel like you read my mind a little bit when we were talking about New Zealand and you mentioned you grew up in the Hudson Valley of New York. Eventually, you ended up in Syracuse. Tell us about growing up in New York and landing in Syracuse.
Well, Eric, I didn't actually grow up in New York. I was born in Germany. My dad was in the Army. I grew up mostly in the Washington, D.C. area, and we lived in Chicago for a while. No, New York. My dad didn't want me to go, further than Lynchburg College in Lynchburg, Virginia. Perfectly good little college. I went there for 2 years, and then I transferred into Syracuse, and that was a big shocker for me, from kind of a little southern kind of place to a very out there, slightly quite left-wing university. I wanted to be a journalist, so I went to the J school at Syracuse, the Newhouse School, that was a great passport. Erica will appreciate this probably more than you, Erica. I wanted to be a sports writer. And women were not sports writers in 1966. But I figured if I had a passport from a big journalism school, and I could write, and I could have a leg up. Might get the job. So I was writing like crazy, and at Syracuse, I had that passport, and I stayed on, got a job, and worked at got a degree at night and got my master's degree. And this was during the time then of the Boston Marathon. So it was at Syracuse where I actually met the guy who introduced me to marathon running. I'd been running since I was 12. My dad told me that life was to participate, not spectate, and I should get out and run a mile a day, and I'd make the field hockey team in my high school. And it was life-changing for me because it wasn't the running so much as the empowerment that it gave me as a skinny little kid, in a very big high school. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got to Syracuse, I was running about 3 miles a day. And I asked the coach if I could run on the men's team because there were no sports for women. Can you imagine that? 25 sports for men, all scholarship deep. Women had play days. One day a year we had a play day. I said, what? Oh. Are you kidding me?
So unacceptable.
So I went into the coach's office, and this is another one of those life moments, turning moments. I went into the coach's office. I asked if I could come and train on the men's run on the men's cross country team.
Yes.
And he took a big breath and he said, "Well, we've never had a girl before, but we cannot allow you to come officially because it's against NCAA rules. But we would welcome you if you wanted to come and train with the team." I said, "Great. Oh, thanks. That's all I really want, So I shut the door. And as I shut the door, just before it closed, you know how you can hear a conversation? Mm-hmm. He burst out laughing to his colleagues. And he said, "I guess I got rid of that one."
Tell me you showed up. Tell me you showed up.
So what do you do? That's what Woody Allen says, secret of my success is that I showed up. So when I showed up, you know what? The guys were wonderful. I said, "Wow, what a sport. This is terrific." The guys were really welcoming. And there was a little guy by the name of Arnie Briggs, who was the university mailman. And he had been out there training with the guys because he was a Boston Marathon runner. And he would do his mail route and then come and train with the guys. And by the time I met him, I was 19. He was 50, had a bad Achilles, bad knees. And he jumped around like a jackrabbit. He said, "We've never had a girl before. I've been here 30 years. We've never had a girl." Anyway, he took me under his wing because I was slow.
Oh, wonderful.
and he was injured. So injured, I could keep up with him. And then we started getting our mileage up, and every day he'd tell me another Boston Marathon story. He'd run it 15 times and occasionally finished in the top 10. And it was the day he was a hero. He was just, he was a little guy. He was a volunteer coach, and what did Arnie Briggs know? And yet when he ran the Boston Marathon, he got his name in the paper and he got kissed by the girls at Wellesley. And it was a big deal for him. He was a hero for a day, So I just admired the spirit so much. But I was cranky one day and I told him I didn't want to hear about the Boston Marathon anymore. Let's just go run it. And he said a woman couldn't possibly do it. I said,
"Challenge accepted, am I right?"
I said, "Arnie, you're telling me how great I am. We're running 10 miles a day." And he said, yeah, but a woman, 10 miles is not 26. And I said, yeah, but I mean, Roberta Gibb jumped out of the bushes and ran the Boston Marathon, last year. The year before. And, Arlene Piper in 59, run up and down Pikes Peak. And a couple of women had run the Equinox Marathon up in Alaska. He said, no dame ever ran no marathon.
Oh, Arnie, I have a feeling you're going to get it handed to you.
You don't have a training partner. And we argued. Yep. And finally, he said, all right. He said, you know what? He said, if any woman could do it, I believe you could. I thought about this. And he said, and if you showed me in practice, I'd be the first person to take you to Boston. And I said, hot damn, What do you need? I have a coach, I've got a training partner here, and I got a buddy. That was the biggest thing. And
absolutely.
Oh God, the snow! It snowed 9 yards that year in Syracuse, and
oh my gosh,
never saw bare ground. Oh, we were tough as nails. We were training in the dark. We were training in blizzards, and the day came to run the 26 miles, and we're finishing it, right? And I said, Arnie, we're gonna do it, and he said, yeah, I can't believe it. It's really great. And as we got closer, he kept saying, you look so good. And I said, I don't think we measured it right.
Oh.
So I said, let's do another 5-mile loop. And he said, can you do another 5-mile loop? And I said, sure, can't you? And he goes, I guess. So we went out again, and we're coming in now finally up, it was 31 miles.
So you just casually did a 50K that day.
I know.
Hey, Arnie. Here we go.
And you know what? He starts weaving across the road, and his eyes are gone. And I said, come on, Arnie, a mile to go. Let's go. Come on. He was out of his mind. Eyes were just back in his head. When we finished, I threw my arms around him. He said, we did it. We're going to Boston. He's passed out. But to our point, earlier, we had said, about women and endurance and how we discover that endurance. When he woke up, he went like this. He said, women have hidden potential in endurance and stamina. And I said, it's the truth, because the guys on the cross-country team wouldn't come out and run with us after, 12 or 13 miles. They said we were crazy people. But at 12 or 13 miles is when I could keep up with them. And so there was our difference. And not to say they couldn't have trained up for the distance, of course. In those days, a woman wasn't going to be outrunning a man. But now, it's all changing. And it is a really exciting time for women, right now. I mean, for the whole world. I mean, when we're looking at this new potential of what capabilities, I think it's just going to completely change the face of sports. I mean, you're looking at soccer, Women's World Cup soccer, completely different game. And Women's World Cup rugby here in New Zealand, oh my God, they weren't hitting hard like the guys, but they were so fast and they went forever. They could keep up that pace and nobody. It was just completely different. It was wonderful to see. Anyway, carrying back the Boston Marathon, so it was Arnie who insisted I sign up for the race. Yes. And I said, why can't we just go and jump in? He said, you just can't do that at Boston. It's a serious race. You're a member of the AAU. You're a card-carrying athlete, girl. You gotta follow the rules.
Do it the right way.
Pay your $2 entry fee. And I said, okay, but
$2, I love it.
Yeah.
I wish it was still $2.
It was a sweet moment when we were signing the entry forms at my dormitory. And I said, Arnie, if I wear a number in the Boston Marathon, I'm going to be really noticed. And he said, I know. And I'm proud of you. Amazing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Arnie totally turned his tune around. He knew you could do it. He believed.
Yeah, but you know what? Now, here's a guy who had run the Boston Marathon 15 times. He knew all the officials. He was respected. He, in fact, had trained and gone to races with Jock Semple, and we'll get to that story in a minute. But he was putting his reputation on the line for me.
Oh, okay.
It's another way of looking at it. Yes. He believed so much that he and a couple of guys of the cross-country team were going to drive up to Boston. They were going to run the race with me because he believed in me. And he could have said, look, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. And he didn't say that. And
I'm proud of him for stepping up and
yeah, it's, as
in the
I've gotten
right direction,
older,
right?
yeah, as I've gotten older, I've realized how difficult that would be. I mean, would you do it for somebody?
I would like to say I would, but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
at the time, it's just you never know, because
You never
this
know.
is one thing that he looked forward to all the time,
Yeah.
and it was like his crowning achievement, pretty much, right? So
Right,
he would
right.
be risking that. He may not be able to run it again. So for him to do that for you is huge. That is a very
Yeah.
big sacrifice.
Yeah. And and I thought that he was just as naive about the potential as I was, but I don't think that's the case. I think that he had thought about it a lot.
Mhm.
Anyway, well, the rest of the story. The morning of the race, it was in Boston. It was sleeting and snowing. Arnie went in and picked up the bibs for the whole team. Came out to the car. We pinned him on there. We, just stayed because the gym was too crowded. And he said he didn't want me to go in there anyway because all the men were running around naked. And
Oh, wow.
and he said you'd be embarrassed. And anyway, so I pinned on the numbers and we went over to the churchyard there, the Catholic church in Hopkinton, parked the car and started our warm up and then got in the race. And a mile and a half down the road, the press truck came by us. In those days, the press truck started behind the race. Go figure. But
Oh, I see.
well, the best shot they could get was to come through the whole field. Get and come.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're coming through and seeing all the runners as the truck's passing the runners. It's a good shot.
It's a good shot, yeah. And in those days, the race was, well, they kept saying it's getting out of control. There are 500 people here. And they made us all move over and beep the horn. And I thought that was very dangerous. And they came through and the press truck then shot backwards and went up to the front of the race. And as they were coming through, of course, they saw me. And very excited seeing a woman in the race. And they slowed down and was, hung on there and took pictures for me. But alongside of me was the us following the press truck was a bus, and on the bus were what I call the scribes. They were the journalists who were not taking pictures, so they're working on their typewriters, and they would type their stories as they went along, and then they would have a courier at 10K and whatever, drop off their stories to get into the newspapers downtown. There were 7 editions of a Boston paper in those days. Amazing, 7 different.
It really is.
Yeah, yes, I miss it terribly. Honestly, I know I'm a nerd, but I love paper. Anyway, on the bus were all the officials. They dropped off the. Can you imagine this? They dropped off the timers as they went along. And so Jock Semple, the co-race director, along with Will Cloney, were on the bus, and the journalists were giving Jock Semple in particular a really hard time because they always picked on him because he always had a short fuse, and he was always getting into trouble. And so they said, "Hey, Jocko, look at that. There's a girl in a race. And KV Switzer. I wonder what her mother calls her. Curry, Kate, Kim." And he just jumped off the bus and went after me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think it would have happened if the journalist wouldn't have riled him up so much? Like, do you think he still would have done something?
I think he would have gone alongside of me and started shouting at me.
But not quite to the extreme that we know happened.
Yeah. But I had heard about him and seen him also in action later, where if a guy had a lower bib number and was up near the front, he would just push him and bop him and say, "Get the hell out of here. You're not an elite athlete." He said he was really very, very feisty.
Arnie knew him too, right? Your coach knew him. Yeah.
They ran races together. So when Jock grabbed me and screamed at me, "Get the hell out of my race and give me those numbers," he was trying to rip my 261, my bib number off.
Yeah.
I jumped away. I was terrified. I mean, I didn't see him. I was totally blindsided by it. And Arnie grabbed him and said, "Leave her alone, Jock. She's okay. I've trained her." And he just smashed Arnie like that and said, "You stay out of this, Arnie." And I thought, what? These guys know each other, you know? And
So you didn't know this at the time.
I didn't know where this guy had come from. He's a maniac. And so then he came back and he missed the bib on the front and he went for the one in the back, got the corner. That's why you can see this logo here has the ripped off corner right there.
Oh, look at the attention to detail there.
Yeah. Because that's the symbol, the symbolic thing. We'll get to in a minute.
Yes,
but anyway, he went for the one on the back, got the corner off, so it flapped during the race. But as he grabbed for me, my boyfriend who is running with me, this is another story and also hilarious and sad and funny, who was only in the race because I was running it and he was a world-class hammer thrower. And if a girl could run, he could run.
Okay.
Yeah. 235 pounds over 26.2 miles and not more than 3 miles of training, right?
Oh, it must have been hurting after that one.
I couldn't convince him. But anyway, he came in handy because he took out Jock with a fabulous shoulder charge. Jock went flying through the air. And Arnie everybody was shocked because it was such a powerful hit. And I thought, I mean, you heard that kind of crunch, that football crunch, you know, and I thought, oh my God,
yeah, Tom's
killed him. And everybody looked and goes, ah, and Arnie screamed, run like hell. And off, we just tore down the street, you know, went flying past the press truck. And then the press truck accelerated and they got screaming and yelling. And the retelling is hilarious. Okay, but at the time it was really terrible, and
absolutely,
So they're screaming and yelling at you, the press truck.
Yeah, well, they're screaming, yelling at the driver too. You know, hurry up, pick it up, go after her. And then they weren't screaming at me, but they got very aggressive. When are you going to quit? What are you doing? What are you trying to prove? And no, I mean, I'm all of 20 years old and I'm so humiliated because I felt like I had ruined a really important race, you know, somehow, you know, I knew this was like the Olympic Games as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, you just wanted to run. You didn't want the attention. You just wanted to do it.
Right. Exactly right. And I said to guys in the press truck when they said, what are you trying to prove? I said, I'm not proving anything. I just want to run. And then they said, well, when are you going to quit? When are you going to quit? When are you going to quit? They really wanted me to quit.
Like, how much time is it? How many miles left to the finish? That's when I'll quit.
Now we're maybe 2 miles into the race, right? Maybe.
Oh, God. Yep.
Yeah. And finally I said, I'm not quitting. You might as well just go. And it was really amazing. You know, I knew. There's a split second when I thought, should I quit? Because maybe I've done something really terrible here. And, but I knew if I quit, everybody would say, women can't do it. She was just there for the publicity or something. And I mean, besides the car, we had to make a decision, right? And also, I knew if I quit, everybody would say women are always barging into place, which is what they said about work, education, everything. They were saying women are always barging into places they're not welcome, and then they can't do it. Well, of course they can't do it if they get treated like that. And so I just reinforced the belief. And I just said to Arnie, Arnie, I don't know where you stand now with me in this, but I'm going to finish this on my hands and my knees if I have to. I have to finish this race now. And you know, suddenly it was that moment where you grow up. And that's what it was. I mean, that was it. So I carried on. The press truck finally left. And I murdered Jock Semple in my mind every way a person could be murdered. And then when I got to Heartbreak Hill, you know, you're on fumes. And you guys are on Boston, right? Okay.
I have.
She has. I go every year. I'll run it one. I'll do it one day.
Yeah. Well, when you get to Heartbreak, because you have to be really used to the downhills before you're coming up and you say, oh my God, what happened? You're kind of on fumes. And then that's when I forgave him. You know, I said, yeah, of course, Jock Semple was going to act like that. What else does he know? He's a product of his time. You know, it's not his, in a way, it's not his fault. So
So you're thinking about this during the race, going up the Heartbreak Hill.
Well, of course, I was thinking about the whole incident the whole way, you know?
Yeah.
tumbling it over and tumbling it over.
It's hard to get past something like that.
Yeah.
That's like a huge thing. That's just being embarrassed, and it sticks around for a while.
Yeah, and I was getting tired. We were, of course, I trained the distance, but I mean, Boston was different. Even though I trained hills, it was no problem. I had no doubt that I could and would finish.
Yeah.
And of course, my shoes are too small. My feet were bleeding. All of those kinds of things. But I decided, God, it's not his fault. And it's up to me and other women like me. We got to change the way this guy thinks. And so at that point, I said, what would change his mind? And I said, well, if I ran well, it would change his mind, because I'm going to finish here slowly. Because Arnie said, let's just slow down. We got to make sure you finish. And, it was a 4-hour, 20-minute marathon, which, of course, was a jogging pace in those days.
That's great to my standards. I think that's amazing.
Well, I know. For a first marathon, it's perfectly acceptable, I think.
Absolutely.
But, I knew it was a jogging pace. And when I and then I got angry at women, to my shame. I said, why aren't they here? Why don't they get it? They could feel free. They could feel strong. And then I thought, oh, you stupid girl. You're really stupid. Your dad encouraged you to run. You met Arnie. The guys on the team were really nice to you. You had a support system. And most women don't have anything like that kind of encouragement. And so I said, okay. If they only had the opportunities that I've had, we could change things. But I didn't know what that was going to look like. I knew that if I became a better athlete, that I could convince the Jock Semples of this world. So when I finished the race, everybody said, weren't you excited when you finished? And no, I wasn't. I was cold. My feet were bleeding. And I felt this huge burden of responsibility, that, okay, I've stepped in it. Now I've got to do something with it. And it was very polarizing. I got hate mail, really amazing stuff about how I was cry in hell, it was God is going to doom you. And then other people would write and say, that was so cool, we're putting your picture on our mantelpiece. And so it was really, really amazing. But it gave me time to figure out a lot of stuff over the years. Then when I was training, I trained myself finally down to 251.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's such a wow.
I'm not a talented athlete. But
I say otherwise, Kathrine.
Well, I was fascinated with what my body could do. Mm-hmm. And it is an extraordinary experience to get better, as any runner knows. We're so proud even of 3 or 4 minutes here and there. And and to knock off that amount of time, I said, okay, now you're world ranked. Because at that time it was, it would have won the Boston Marathon every year up to that point for women. And I wasn't. I got a second, but I got beaten by a world record. So you can't fault that.
You still have to be proud of yourself for the work you put in. That is incredible.
So because I had achieved much more than I ever thought I could do it. And then
absolutely.
I thought, now, if I can do that, what are other women can do if they only had the opportunity? And so by that time, women like Nina Cusick, Sarah Mae Berman, we were organizing and legislating and trying to change the rules. Mm-hmm. I was really good at organizing events. Sarah Mae worked a lot with the Boston Athletic Association. Nina was really terrific with all the hard legislation with the AAU and changing the rules. I was expelled, by the way, from the AAU for, among other things, running the Boston Marathon without a chaperone. How about that?
I thought you had a chaperone. What else was Arnie? Come on.
Hey, what about that big football player,
Right.
Those other men out there who loved you and were like, this is so cool. I bet they would all put their hand up and say, I was her chaperone.
Oh, God. Anyway, but then I began organizing events. And then that's when I realized that's what the opportunity is. You create the opportunity, field of dreams, build it, they'll come. I began organizing races, and then I said, we got to get this serious, and sponsorship is going to make it serious. I went to Avon Cosmetics with a proposal that I knew they were never going to accept, and it was to create a series of races around the world for women only. and each these races would be longer than 10,000 or 10Ks, and culminate annually with a women's only marathon in a major city. And they loved it, and they hired me.
No way.
No, yeah, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I could write. I wrote a hell of a proposal. I knew PR, and we started this program, and it became one of the biggest and best promotions they ever did. And our aim was to get the women's marathon in the Olympic Games. People thought I was smoking weed, when I told them that. And I said, no, we just need to get we started working with the IOC and the IAF, and they said, okay, what you needed, this many countries, this much participation. We already had the talent. By this time, Greta Weitz and Joan Benoit were coming through with some really
Joni, yes.
amazing times. And so then we began getting the member nations together. So eventually we had races in 27 countries and 5 continents. And the participation for the Olympics was 24 countries and 3 continents. So we exceeded that.
Excellent.
One big marathon, the third big marathon we had, which was in London, closing downtown London streets for the first time in history in 1980. And that was the design model for what is now the London Marathon. They don't want to know that, but it's a good story.
That makes it even more special. I love it.
It does. It does. And I went back to run it and got this big award from the Queen and everything, which was really cool. But anyway, we put the numbers and the data and the statistics. We got medical evidence, which was one of the biggest barriers. Your uterus is going to fall out one, and the science that came in from these doctors, they were as surprised as we were, which was that women have the endurance and stamina, and that the marathon event in the Olympics is probably much more ideal than the high hurdles or the shot put. And in terms of women's participation, ability, native ability. So it got voted in an extraordinary meeting in 1981 for the 84 games. And, sort of the rest is history. It was a slam dunk of an event. It was, I think, the best event of the Olympic Games, including in the, not only Joni winning, like in a breakaway, one of the most courageous, gutsy races I've ever seen in my life. I often think about that race, because Greta Weitz held back because she thought she was going out too fast. And if Greta had won, everybody would say Greta ran the smartest race in the world. And Joni won, and everybody said, my God, she was the gutsiest race in the world. But even when Gabrielle Anderson-Scheisse came in at the end, staggering around the stadium, it was the moment when finally the world accepted that a woman could be exhausted in public. Men are heroes when they stagger across the finish line, and women were disgusting when they staggered across the finish line. And when she did it, everybody said she's a heroine. She's our hero.
Wasn't that an incredibly hot, humid day? Because was that in Los Angeles?
Yes, it was, but it wasn't an incredibly hot and humid day. It was a day that actually was certainly quite warm, but there was a breeze off the ocean. And we were all relieved that it wasn't a real stifler of a day. The problem with her, Gabrielle, was that the Swiss Federation made her meet this ridiculous qualifying time. And she was running marathons, like several of them, all over the whole year before. And I think she showed up at the race exhausted. And, she was 39 years old, so she wasn't going to get another shot at the Olympics. So, this was the time to go, and she did. And in the end, as I say, as scary as it was to see and as nerve-wracking as it was for me as a commentator, because I was afraid that they would do something like they did in 1928 and suddenly pull the event from the games. Everybody just went crazy and said that this was really heroic performance. It was really, really amazing.
They just had a big thing for her in LA too, or they just had this big thing going on in LA at the stadium just last week for her and for women running and everything. I saw you posting. I saw everyone posting about it. That was 84. and it's 2024, so that would be 40 years. So it was like the 40th year anniversary of it. That's what it was.
Yeah, the 40th year anniversary of this. Yeah, and they're going to have a big party up in Olympia. So, in May, apparently, for the trials, to celebrate the trials that they had there. Yeah, that's great. Excellent. But I think, then of course, I'm never satisfied, or I am satisfied. That's not true. I just, how you get so excited, and it was a big, big moment. But about 2 weeks later, I said, that's really great, the Olympics for women. But what about all those women who are not allowed to go out of the house? Who are not allowed to get an education or drive a car, or can't choose their own husband, or get their nose cut off if they do something like go out and run. What about all those women who are too poor, or suffer domestic abuse and can't even get out of the house, or are too afraid? What about, half of our neighbors, who say, oh, I can't do that. I'm too fat. I'm too slow. Everybody's looking at me. They still do it.
There's always an excuse. There's always an excuse. I say, yeah.
Nobody is freaking looking at you.
It is tough to get out of a mindset to get out there and start. But once you get past that starting point, it's hopefully they can just keep going with it.
Yeah, and they do. And that's when we founded 261 Fearless, the nonprofit, which basically is a very simple idea, which is a woman will run if she has a friend. Just put out your hand and say, hey, come out and have a walk with me, and let's go get a coffee. Let's jog a little bit. And don't you feel great? Oh God, I feel great. They always just say, I feel really good. Just to get them out of the house. And then, once they get moving, they start getting that sense of empowerment. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with weight loss, and everything to do with that sense of movement and control of your own body. And that sense of empowerment. And we're in 14 countries already. And each country has a series of clubs, and clubs, like groups, meet runs, but clubs, official clubs, where the women have a trained coach. And we have a really good coaching and educational system. You want to learn more, just go to www.261fearless.org. And we'd love you to become a coach, join us, and then form your own organization and be part of this huge global network where we also have empowerment talks, educational programs, coaching support, uniforms, stuff. Adidas is really great. They sponsor all our coaches with the gear and shoes. It's really terrific, which is for some women, that's also life-changing. So we're really excited. We got a great group here in New Zealand. We got a great group in New York. We got a great group in Austria and in Berlin and in London. And
that's awesome.
Running has so completely changed our lives, and it has empowered us. And women can do anything if they just have the opportunity. So we're trying to give them that opportunity. And I think that we can go a long way to them not only having that sense of empowerment about themselves, but they can change other aspects of their lives, their work, their education, leave a bad relationship, be better for their kids. All these things is really important.
I love it. It's just the perfect catalyst to just go towards a better life.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm sorry. Whatever you're going to ask me, I've just taken over the whole interview here.
You've done it all. You have read.
Show. You are welcome to say whatever you like. This is a dream come true.
You've pretty much hit everything on the show notes. But if I can go back, I want to go back to the Boston Marathon. But after the race, you're driving home, and around midnight, you stop to get coffee or ice cream or something. And the picture that everyone sees all over the world, all over the internet, all over whenever the Boston Marathon happens, whenever anyone talks about you, there's the picture, and you saw it for the first time that night on your drive home. Tell me about that story.
We thought this was just an isolated incident of Jock Semple yet again losing his temper, an angry, tired official trying to get the race on time. It was bad weather. It was hard conditions. And then I saw those pictures in the newspaper. And of course, we were talking about it in the car and said, Arnie kept saying, Jock, it's really infuriating me. He just can't control his temper. La, 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 la. But we were all trying to stay awake. Jeez, flip. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and we were exhausted. It was cold, and we couldn't move. We were so sore, and we got out of the car.
Absolutely.
And we were limping across the parking lot just to get coffee to stay awake and some ice cream. And then we saw the papers, of course, the guys just loved it. They were crowing, look at that. I'm in the picture, And I just kind of went quiet because I thought, oh boy, my life's going to change. And I don't know how it's going to change. And I hope it can be a good thing. And then I crawled into my bed at dormitory, and the next day the phone is ringing like crazy. And one of the calls is from my mother. And she said, my God, what? We were trying to get a hold of you. And it didn't even occur to me to call her,
Oh, yeah.
And she said, I'm getting calls from lawyers. They want you to sue this guy for assault. And I said, oh my God, that's ridiculous. He just lost his temper. And my mother said, well, what do you want to do? What should I tell them? And I said, tell them that would be the worst thing I could do. I don't like to sue him. That was just be a bitchy woman. That's the way people would interpret that. I'm not looking for money. I just want to run. Yeah. Well, anyway, in the meantime, here I'm taking the high road, right? Jock Semple calls a press conference in Boston. This isn't in my book. No, it wasn't in my book. Actually, he calls this press conference and they say, hey, Jock, what are you going to do about that? And Jock said, 4 hours and 20 minutes. I could have walked it that fast. That really annoyed me. Mm-hmm. And I said, nah, I'm not gonna fire back. I'm just gonna put my head down, become a better athlete. Then I got expelled from the AAU. And I got expelled for all these reasons. Fraudulent entry. They didn't send my money back, Anyway.
Right.
Well, it was $2. It was a big deal.
$2.
The principal.
Big deal.
Wonder what that would be today, actually.
$300 something. That's what it is.
Something dollars, right? Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyway, but the best one was that she'd run without a chaperone, which I think is a sign of the times, a real sign of the times. Mm-hmm. Yeah, women need protection.
Did they specifically have in like the rules to sign up that women were not allowed? And
no,
because nothing about gender on the entry form. And I said to Arnie, I said, is this against the rules? Because Roberta Gibb didn't wear a number. And he said, she should have worn a number. And I said, well, maybe it's against the rules. And he said, well, I knew you were going to ask that. And he brought his little blue AAU handbook. And we went through it. And there was nothing about gender in the marathon. So he just had nothing to go on. And
nobody would believe a woman wanted to do it, or could do it. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there who might misspeak about your story. And a lot of them say that you went KV to hide the fact that you're a woman, but that's not the case of the story. You didn't do that, and you didn't try to hide even when Arnie went and got your bib. That was never part of your plan.
Well, it's true that I didn't go into the gym, but Arnie didn't want me to go into the gym. First of all, it was pouring rain, and everybody who was running was in there. And he said, I don't want you to go in there because these guys are running around naked, which was true. Okay, because they would get their bib and then they would change in the open gym area. There wasn't anybody else in there but athletes and officials, and all men. But why did I sign KV Switzer is another story that is true and extremely coincidental, which is that my dad misspelled my name on my birth certificate. He spelled the Kathrine without an E in the middle, and my name had always then been misspelled. And when I was writing for our high school newspaper, the typesetter would change my byline again and again and again to the Kathrine, and I got so pissed off. I just leave it alone. It's, so I started signing my name KV Switzer because also, this is a teenage thing, right? But I wanted to be J.D. Salinger in the worst kind of way. It's true. I'd read just about everything he wrote. And I said, I want to be J.D. Salinger. And then I looked at the newspapers and all the sports journalists, signed with their initials, or they had a name like Red, or something like Red Smith or something. But they always signed with their initials. So I said, okay, well, then interestingly enough, later, many years later, in fact, I got out that old entry form for the Boston Marathon and a copy of the entry list. All the officials have their initials. They sign their name with identified themselves with their initials. So it was an unusual thing. But anyway, I'd been signing my name with my initials, so I signed KV Switzer.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
And that's the story. Heard from her.
That's the story. And I'm still
heard from Kathrine herself on the On the Runs podcast. Kathrine, you're amazing.
I'll tell you the truth is I did not want to go to Boston and say, hey, look at me, I'm a girl. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be really low key. And I had on a very cute shorts and top that I wanted to show off in. But I didn't want to broadcast the fact that, hey, I'm a girl. Mm-hmm. But I did want to look good. And I was completely thwarted in that because it was pouring rain and sleeting and snowing. It was horrible conditions. So I had to leave my baggy gray sweatsuit on. And then, of course, people said, oh, you were faking your identity under the gray sweatsuit. You can't
looking for more excuses to pop on you.
I think in the photo, everyone had a similar looking sweatsuit on, too.
We wore everything we owned. I mean, they had hats and gloves and windbreakers and all kinds of stuff. But and it was cold. It was bitter cold. Mm. The only weather conditions,
it's all over the place.
Yeah, the only weather conditions that were worse were 2018.
That was my year.
No kidding.
It was awful. Yep.
My God! And were you able to finish?
I did. I had trained really well, and I probably finished a good half an hour slower than I wanted to, but God forbid I was going to finish that no matter what, because that was my only Boston, and it being Boston, I knew I just had to get there. So I trekked through the sleet and the rain and the cold, and I made it. But it was no easy feat.
I got to hand it to you because, there were many people who were terrific athletes, as we know. And they were falling by the wayside with hypothermia. So it wasn't it wasn't necessarily a matter of not being trained. It was a matter of really, really tough conditions. And honest to God, I just, I was doing the broadcast that year and I thought, this is just unreal. And in fact, it was my last broadcast because I had I'd done it. I broadcast the race for 42 years for WBZ. And I said, I'm going to retire this year. Oh, no, you can't. And I said, well, I said I was going to go when I wanted to go, or I was going to wait until finally an American woman's going to win the race. And I said, and she's not. And it was Desi Linden. And I said, yes.
It was Desi.
Yes. Yeah.
Incredible. I still get goosebumps thinking about that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, of course she had trained in that kind of stuff. But, oh man, I admire you.
Oh, thank you. I admire you.
Well, that was very, very tough. It's easy to say, look, I'm dropping out because, so many people did, and totally justifiably.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to get her back in. Maybe we talked about this just yesterday. Maybe next year or the one after, we're going to work hard, get her back in the Boston Marathon so she can have that glorious day with like good weather and just sunshine and a bunch of cheering fans who are all excited for her too. Not that they weren't.
If we don't, then we know that I'm the jinx. That's what it's going to be.
Hey, well, look, you know what? If you can't qualify, okay, come and join 261 Fearless. We have a charity.
Do you do fundraising? Yes.
We have a charity team every year. We'll help you fundraise, get you there. We'd love to have you join.
That's amazing. It would be an honor.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Kathrine, I want to say one more thing before Erica, I know, has something to say to you after, but I want to cover one more thing about that race and about Jock, because Jock said a few things, you took the higher ground, but years later, you two made up, or you were friends with him. You were friends with him until the day he died. Tell me a little more about your relationship with him.
Yeah, I really did. I forgave him going over Heartbreak Hill, and when he made things worse by saying things like, "I could have walked it that fast," or if that girl were my daughter, I would spank her. You know, he just kept digging it deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
You know, you had to just shrug it off. But and everybody said, "What do you think about Jock?" So they interview him, and then they come and interview me. And I said, "Look, you know, he's a man who's, you know, done a lot for the Boston Marathon, and he just lost his temper, and he had a bad day." And they said, "Well, are you forgiving him?" And I said, "Sure. You know, everybody has a bad day." But he just kept making it worse. And then finally, you know, when he saw Sarah May and me and Nina working really hard on the rules, trying to do it the right way, getting other women into the race. And finally, we changed that legislation and we made women official in 1972. And at first, he was still pissed off and said, you know, if these women are going to run my race, they're going to meet the men's qualifying time. And it was with 3:30 in those years. And there were 8 of us who could do it, and 8 of us showed up, and 8 of us registered, 8 of us ran, and all 8 of us finished. And when we did,
I love
it changed his mind completely. And I teased him. I said, "So, Jock, are you ever going to like me anymore?" I mean, when I got my trophy that year, he was still angry. I'm not kidding. And he was so embarrassed because the trophy was broken in the packing.
Oh.
And so when he took it out of the packing and handed it to me, he said, "Look, I'm sorry the trophy's broken. If you send it back, we'll replace it." And he said, "But I've been mad at you for 5 years and you deserve a broken trophy."
No way.
Oh, Jock.
That's what I mean by a hard case. Anyway, finally, Jock and I became, you know, because I just worked on him and worked, and finally we became really good friends. We would do panel discussions together. I was the guest when he launched his book, the surprise guest. I ran out of the stage in my sweatsuit and tried to tackle him. We did
great.
fun things like that together, and then I visited him, you know, a few hours before he died. And people say to me, "My God, that's a lot of forgiveness." And you have to say this. I say this all the time. How can you not love somebody who has changed your life so completely, even though it was a bad thing at the time? You know, you take the high road and you make something that is very positive and life affirming and changing millions of women's lives. How can you not love somebody who's done that? You know, for better or worse, right?
He lit the fire. He really did.
He did. Despite himself, he changed women's history for the better.
Yes. I hope he realized that before he passed, that he really had an impact on you, which had an impact on everything else. It's a snowball effect.
I think he does. I think he regrets having done that, though. And because, you know, he did a lot for the Boston Marathon. He saved that race, is particularly during the Depression and the war years. He kept it going when people were saying, "Oh, it's a mess. It screws up traffic. It's too expensive. Mm-hmm. Why are we doing this?"
Yeah.
And he stuck with it. But I remember coming out of the hospital where he was when he was dying. And I said to some friends who were with me, I said, "You know, tomorrow in the New York Times, for all the great things that Jock Semple has actually done for the sport, he's going to be remembered for attacking a girl in the Boston Marathon." And I said, I'm sorry in a way for him. That's going to be his lasting legacy. But, you know, if you look at it in a positive way, I guess it's okay. Because sure enough, the next day in the New York Times, there it was. Jock Semple dead or whatever. And then there's a picture of him attacking.
Well, we're just glad that you are the type of person.
You know, when I die, that's going to happen too. They're not going to talk about 261 and us having a great interview. They're going to show that picture.
There better be more. But
well, maybe they'll see our picture that we'll post of you too. Maybe they'll see that.
But we're just thankful that you're the kind of person who has that forgiveness in her heart, because it just has grown to be this incredible phenomenon, and you just helped propel women's sports, women's marathoning to what it is today. So it's
thank
incredible.
You, Erica. I love the fact that there's these women who are going to carry it even further. You know, well beyond just the marathon. We're going to see stuff we can't even imagine right now. It's great.
I love it. We already have with the Lululemon project, the Further project. Like the limits they do not exist.
Yeah. What I really am excited about though is that more and more women around the world, because of the communication and the breaking down of social restriction, are going to start running and get that sense of empowerment and get much more control over their own lives. And that's what's going to change history. Also,
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So just one last thing for me, Kathrine, because you have just been so amazing. On behalf of women, I just want to say thank you for your bravery that has sparked some serious changes within the running community. The changes that ultimately made running and marathoning a more inclusive sport, because that is just huge for us. Thanks to people like you and other women pioneers that allowed women everywhere to have the chance to test their limits and to show the world what we're capable of. So as a women runner, thank you for paving the way forward.
Oh, Erica, that is really nice. Thank you very, very much. I'm really grateful. I'm grateful to both of you, really, for spreading the word, getting the word out there, igniting and exciting people to this wonderful activity, which is so really cheap, accessible, and
right.
And anybody can do it. So yeah, that's really, really good of you to say that. I think we're going to go really far, thanks to people like you.
You are.
Thank you.
I certainly hope so. It's one of our passions, and we hope that we can make an impact just as much as you have. So
Great, so much.
You're amazing. Both of you are so amazing.
I'm just glowing right now. I'm so incredibly happy. This has been a dream interview.
This has been, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for working this out. Like, you're on the other side of the world. We're over here. You probably know nothing about us, but this is a fun little passion project of ours on the side. And you are our 100th episode. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal for me. Like, this has been so much fun. And I'm like, I want 100 to have some significance. And it is a couple weeks before Boston. We do Boston weeks every April to highlight Boston runners and to help them with their fundraising or talk about their training or hear about their experience throughout the entire month. So you're kicking off Boston weeks, but you're also our 100th episode. And that's, to us, that's a big deal. And we're so happy we were able to make this happen, including all the technical troubles we had for 30 minutes before.
And can I just tell you one more thing? So for Boston weeks, we have 4 incredible women runners, yourself included. So we are very happy to showcase how far the Boston Marathon has come with
great
running.
Super.
Yeah, you're going to love these women. This is going to be great. Thank you so much, Kathrine. You're the best. Thanks for everything you did. I think Erica said it perfectly, and it came from the right person there. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed that. Kathrine Switzer on the On the Runs podcast.
Thank you, Eric and Erica.
Kathrine, we cannot thank you enough for spending so much time with us. We know you had other things to do. It was first thing in the morning for you, and we are just so grateful.
It was the future for her. She was in the future.
Sort of. But we are so grateful that you could come on and talk to us and hear your incredible story straight from you. I mean, I'm just still so in awe that of everything you've gone through, how you've changed the sport for women in running.
Yeah,
what do I say?
Really well.
What can I say that hasn't already been said?
Oh, you said it so well. Like, there is a part, you guys, check this out. It will be on YouTube soon. There is a part when you gave your little spiel at the end, and it almost looked like she kind of had like a little teary up moment. Like, oh my God, thank you so much. Kathrine was amazing. So much fun. Man, this has been like, I'm done putting pressure on myself to get a big guest for a big number. This was it, right?
Whatever happens organically happens.
Right. And if episode 173 is going to be a huge episode, I don't care. The number is done. But man, I put a lot of too much like thought into episode 100. And I'm glad I did, and it's worth it, and I'm done. But I went back and forth like, who do we get for 100? And when I realized it was going to be around the Boston Marathon, right around the time to kick off Boston weeks, I'm like, I think I got to get someone who's running the Boston Marathon, like a big time Boston Marathon runner, maybe someone who won, maybe someone who like a top-notch American. And then it hit me. Maybe someone who changed the sport of running forever.
How incredible. I applaud you, my friend, for just trying, because I doubt I would have even had the nerve to ask. You know, it takes a lot of effort, and like, you know, I I can't even word it right.
So a few people have asked, like, oh, I want to hear the story about how you got Kathrine Switzer on the podcast. Okay, I will share this one because we've actually talked about it before, but we never talked about her name. Remember, like in January, I said, oh, we're on Threads now, and I made a post because I was actually told no by somebody. And it wasn't Kathrine, because I wasn't communicating with Kathrine, but I was communicating with her team. And they said no, but not no, like no for good forever. Just like, not this year, not now. Maybe they go, maybe in the summertime, actually. They said, email us in the summertime. So I'm like, okay. I was so bummed. I was like, okay, now I'm emailing you, like, I'm texting you, like, who are we going to get? Who should we do for 100? Like, should we stretch it out and have 100 be the Tuesday after the Boston Marathon? That's what I was thinking. And I would like throw in a couple classics. And I wrote a thank you email back to them saying, thank you for getting back to us. We'd love to work with you in the future. If anything ever happens where we can do it before for our 100th episode, we would love that. And then they said, email us back in February. We'll see what we can do.
I'm so happy it worked out. Oh my gosh. Dream interview. Oh.
And then talk about our technical difficulties before.
All I can say is I've been there. So that was basically everything that Kathrine went through to try to get on with Chrome and whatever. I don't even know. But outdated browsers and
yeah, we're hanging out in the studio waiting for her to join. Easily 20 minutes has passed. And then all of a sudden my phone rings from a random phone number. And it says, hi, Eric, this is Kathrine Switzer. I'm like, yes!
We just knew, though. We knew. I'm like, she wouldn't be late on purpose. Like, there's no way. And it had to be something going on. And sure enough, but
updates,
by no fault of her own, it's just
it was so worth it.
So hard to get technology to work.
And then we try to be so respectful of everyone's time. A couple times guests in the past, I think Kathrine was the second, who's like, well, let's do half an hour or let's not go quite an hour. It happened with Justin Spencer from Recycled Percussion.
Yeah.
And we try to honor that, but we just go long. And I don't think it's our fault so much. It's just kind of the way it works out. And then she just is telling her story, starts asking us questions and everything. In fact, she asked you to share a few things. After we hit stop recording, she's like, oh, could you talk about this for me? Erica, you wrote some notes. What does she want to tell everyone listening?
Yeah, we wanted to be so respectful of her time because she gave us like a solid hour when that wasn't the plan. So we didn't even get to ask her what her Code Brown commandment would be. We didn't get to ask her what song she would add to our playlist.
We threw those out when we knew time was a thing. We were
did.
Like, okay.
We really did. But she really wanted us to mention. So Kathrine is going to be a running captain, one of 5, for the Every Woman's Marathon that's coming up this November 16th in Savannah, Georgia. So I think this is going to be an absolutely amazing event. She mentioned this during after we had hung up the video call, and I think I'm going to really try to make it down there. So if anybody damn it.
Erica likes to talk with her hands.
I do. So if anybody wants to come with me, just let me know and we'll try to schedule a trip. So that's November 16th. I think that's a Saturday. So how perfect is that? And that's going to be an amazing race.
It's perfect for everyone who didn't get into the New York City Marathon, where only 4% of the people who applied got in. So if you didn't get into New York, go to Savannah, Georgia with Erica.
Yeah, perfect alternative.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so cool. So Kathrine, thank you. Kathrine, to your team, thank you. I hope maybe we can run into you in Boston because you'll be there. There is a shakeout run she mentioned too. That would be fun if we could try to make. Wow, that was so cool. I really felt like we had a cool connection. And there's one thing I want to tell you this. There's one thing I've noticed when you talk to guests who speak a lot. They tend to remember your name. They probably write it, but they'll be like, well, Erica, this is, you know what I'm talking about. And I love when they do that.
It makes me feel special that they care and they remember and all that stuff. So
it was so cool.
I'm so appreciative of her. Like she was so amazing, and she gave us everything we wanted and more.
You know, I felt like a dummy at one point. Oh man, for all the homework I do on everybody, or at least half our guests, I do a ton of homework, and then the other half, it's like I totally failed. Like we just got off with someone else, and I'm like, listen, we're just going to zigzag. We call it a zigzag. We have no clue where we're going. With her, I thought I did a great job, and I had the whole lefty thing. We're all lefties. And I knew she was born in Germany. I freaking knew it, man. But then when she goes, I grew up in the Hudson Valley, I was like, so you said you were born and raised in the Hudson Valley. Boing.
Well, I mean, conversations will take you every which way. And I know it happens. Occasionally you get distracted and it happens.
It was cool.
But,
it was cool. 100 episodes. Guys, thank you, everybody. But I think we should get to...
Hold on. There was one thing I wanted to mention. So Kathrine, if you happen to be listening, there was one thing I wanted to mention to you while we were still talking, but time got away with us.
I think she's a listener of the pod now. She's
time got away from us. But if you are listening, we have a friend, Charlotte, and she
Patreon of ours.
Yes, she's wonderful. But she does all these awesome costumes. She's done over 250, because I don't remember the exact number, but ultra marathons and marathons. And for one of her
marathons,
know
what you're gonna say.
One of her ultras that she did, she had the bib number 261, and as her outfit, she dressed as you in the gray sweatpants, and she was embodying you through that whole race, and I think she did pretty well. So if Charlotte gives us the go ahead, maybe we can share her picture and
sure. I'm sure she will.
I think it's so awesome.
I mean, she was on the Today Show. I'm sure she'll be fine having us post a photo of her on the On the Runs account.
It's good to get permission, though. I'd rather be safe and get the word. But yeah, Kathrine, you are amazing. Thank you for everything. Just keep being the inspiration you are.
Hey, didn't you pick out a song for her too? Because we didn't even get to the song.
Yes.
So you're thinking to myself, ooh, how do I add another song I like to the playlist? Because apparently you're changing songs on your own list currently.
I can change my own songs on there, but I figured this one would be perfect for Kathrine and her whole vibe, you know. I picked Beyonce, Run the World. Girls.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That song is great anyways, but that is just perfect. So
Kathrine,
we are going to keep running the world.
Love it. Nice pick. I like that you picked with your heart there, knowing like who it was for versus being like, oh, I like this EDM song. I'm going to add another one. Kathrine, you get Sandstorm.
I had to put some more thought into it. So of course she was going to get something relevant, of course. So...
Well, let's get back a little bit to what we do here on the Tros, and let's chat for a little bit. But let's talk about one thing, and let me start off this way, Erica.
Yes.
It is April.
It is April.
But what month was last month?
March.
And what happens in March?
More madness. Brackets. Oh, I'm so happy it's almost over.
But it's not. We have a huge dilemma.
That is right.
This is a
new
right now.
Development within the past hour of recording.
I was so this almost happened in the Elite Eight, and then it came so close. So I've taken a bunch of screenshots here, guys. Our final four came down to the wire in both. One was 51 to 49%. The other one was 52 to 48%, something like that, right? They were so close.
They've always been really close. There has never been a landslide win.
And it's not like there's 4 people voting and it's 2 to 2 or 3 to 1. We're getting 60 to 80 votes, which is amazing. So when you're getting 80 votes and it's tied 40-40,
that is
what?
That is wild.
Come on. So as we are talking right now, it is tied 50-50. The voting is over. 24 hours has passed. So we're going to overtime. So when you're listening to the pod, at 12 o'clock noon, I am going to post another vote for bagel versus hamburger. Now, these votes last 24 hours. However, this one is only going to last 8 hours. At 8 p.m., I'm going to check, and whoever is winning wins the March Madness Bracket Challenge.
This is so exciting.
If we are tied at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Tuesday night, the next vote wins. It's like sudden death double
Sudden
overtime.
death. This is just so fun.
But go out there and vote. At 12 noon, you will see it, and it will end at 8. And it might be 12:05. It might be 12:30. I might forget. I'm going to do my best.
But it's still 8 o'clock.
It
You're going to look at 8 o'clock. Yep.
And that will be our winner. And we'll talk all about it on Thursday because we're coming back Thursday and we have another amazing guest. And she is so cool. In fact, like we have this epic group chat right now between the three of us. And we are like blending Spotify playlists, which is a whole thing I never knew about. And it's amazing.
I'm so obsessed with mine. It's so great. Anyways, yeah, I can't wait for that.
This was so much fun. March was a blast. Like I just dropped the March recap on Saturday. You know what? I thought you didn't like the video. Did you like the video?
I did like the video. Yeah.
You didn't like love the video?
I liked it, but I think I forgot to share it. I'm awful. You should know this by now. I'm trying, but I'm not 100% awesome yet at Instagram.
Guys, let me paint you a picture here. I'm creating the video. I'm asking her for her videos. Like, oh, send me the porta potty one. I don't have it yet. I'm making this. And then I'm like, I love it. It's done. It's ready. It's in the draft folder. She goes, good. And I go, when should I post it? Whenever you want. I'm like, should I do it today or tomorrow? Should I wait till Monday? Whatever. And I go, okay, I'm going to post it at 5 o'clock. And I schedule the post. Like all these things are scheduled. 5 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, now it's 6 o'clock, 7, 8.
Wait, was it Saturday or Sunday that it dropped?
Saturday.
I was out all evening. I was not around. I was not on my phone. Plus, I was driving, so that wouldn't be safe. No, it's Brandon's birthday weekend. Actually, his birthday is on Tuesday, so April 2nd. So,
when you're listening right now.
Exactly.
Happy birthday, Brandon.
Yep. So I was a little busy, and I wound up seeing it when I finally got home later that night after dinner and stuff. But I did love it, man. You never disappoint me.
All right. I'll let this one slide.
I'm just so bad at it. I'm so bad at sharing shit.
Love it. What do you think of the song?
Oh, that I would hear. That's a popular one. That's in like a whole bunch of other stuff I've heard, but that is by far a banger. Yeah. It's unwritten in what?
Intoxicated.
Yeah, I know that song. Of course, yeah.
I'm glad you liked it. I thought it was fitting because it was like, feel the rain on your skin. And it was a very wet month. Which April's going to be very wet for a few of our friends.
I forget about it all the time. And so when somebody mentions it, I just crack. Tara, let's hang out. Post Boston.
Well, I think we should just cap this one off. We're going to be back in 2 days, guys. Yep. The Boston Weeks is off to a killer start. I do have news, though. Someone's going to join us at mile 19 for the day.
Who?
My brother.
No way.
Yep.
Okay, this is news to me. Oh, I'm excited. So I get to hang out with the Knutinen men.
Yes. Apparently he quit his job, got a new job, and he has a couple weeks.
Is he still living out in Cali?
Yeah. And I think he's staying there, but he got a new job and he has some time off in between and he's coming here and he didn't even realize it until I told him like, oh, I'll be at the marathon. He goes, I want to go. So he's flying in Sunday night.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
It is
well,
very cool.
Alex, it's going to be fun to hang out with you.
Well, he's our guy. He's going to be our tracker. I'm going to be like, listen, your job is to track. We're going to have microphones. We're going to have a setup. You're a tracker. Perfect. You need to come and tell us who's coming, when, where, how far away they are. We got a list. How big is our list right now?
It's ridiculous. There's at least 30 people on it. So I've been trying really hard. For some reason, I tried to download the app and it would only give me like the 2020 version, which is they didn't even have a race in 2020. So I'm trying to get the updated version of it so I can look up people, find out what their bib numbers are. I'll start compiling the list.
Yeah, I think it's out there because other people have showed it.
Yeah. I did see some people do that, but for some reason my phone just doesn't want to find the correct app.
It's not a fruit phone, is it?
I don't have a fruit phone. Nope.
That's
my
thing.
Phone is not.
You guys will learn about the fruits next week.
Yeah, but I'm working on the list and I will have it to you as soon as I can.
Guys, thank you so much. Seriously, what a journey. What a ride this has been. I can't wait to do 100 more and 100 more after that. Kathrine, thank you so much for making our 100th episode just amazing. Guys, if you can, go and share this podcast, go and give us a 5-star rating, go and leave us a comment wherever you can leave comments. Help us out because that was so much fun and it just makes it worth it. Jump on our Instagram, link in bio. If you really, really, really loved us and want to help pay for Riverside and the stuff we use in these platforms, join our Patreon. We throw in some early drops. I didn't tell them we're getting Kathrine Switzer, but I do tell them sometimes the other guests, and you get early release videos. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. This is going to be so much fun going forward. Eric, I don't know about you, but what should we do next? Maybe a little good, maybe something bad, maybe a bit of both. We'll see. It's going to be a lot of fun. Save me and take us home here. Episode 100.
We can't thank you guys enough for sticking with us through 100 episodes. This is so huge for us, and we would be nowhere without you guys. So you know we love you, and don't forget to stretch.
3, 2, 1.
I mean, it's just so cool we made it to 100. I know we talked about how we keep talking about the number. This is the last time we're doing it.
So hard
Guys,
not to,
100.
I'm so proud of us. And this is one of the best episodes. Trust us.
This is
trust
good.
us.
This was
listen.
so
It's gonna
much
be
fun. I hate this intro already. Damn it. Yeah.
I do too.
Okay.
Let's start over.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
It was only 2 minutes.
There you
Whatever.
Okay, here we go. What's up?